I squeachel. I wish you a good day. Sheila Rogers Tunutsne. My name is Sheila Rogers, and I have the honor of being the Chancellor of the University of Victoria. I'm speaking to you from the beautiful unceded territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation, Gabriola Island. That's where I live and where I am a very grateful visitor. The University of Victoria is located on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen peoples, and I want to acknowledge them with love and respect. And in that acknowledgement, I include the Songhees, the Esquimalt, and the Wasanich First Nations, whose historical relationships to the land continues to this day. I thank them for their generosity, their hospitality, and their engagement with the University of Victoria, and for their support of all our students. Haishka CM. This is the 7th annual Wellness Week at UVic, and the theme this year is Pathways to Wellness, focusing on individual and also community well-being. I'm honored to be with you today, taking part in Wellness Week once again. And I think back to when I was at university where I experienced my first major depressive episode. I actually didn't get a correct diagnosis for many decades, and it was taboo to speak about it. But that diagnosis was like my birthday, or maybe it was more like a rebirth day. And it thrills me to know that the University of Victoria so strongly supports wellness and mental health, and that we talk about it so openly, as we should, because it matters to us all. Today, as part of Wellness Week at the University of Victoria, I am delighted to welcome a very special guest. Justin Michael Williams is an author, a successful recording artist, an advocate, an adventurer, a yogi. He is a source of optimism in a troubled world, but his life hasn't always been bathed in light. Justin grew up in Pittsburgh, California, which is a suburb of Oakland, and he was bullied at school. There was gang violence nearby. He heard gunshots outside his bedroom window. He's been back to his childhood home and has seen bullet holes outside the house. His parents did their best and gave him a lot of love, and his beloved grandmother played a pivotal role in his life. He's now in his early 30s, and he is a top 20 recording artist, a motivational, transformational speaker. He's a writer. His work in every medium is about healing. I believe he has an idea about every 10 minutes, and some of the best of ideas that he has comes to him while he's meditating, sometimes while he's hiking, but also from being in community. He's a soaring millennial voice for diversity, Black and LGBTQ rights, and inclusion in wellness. And through his music and writing and his advocacy, he's touched and transformed many lives. And a little throwdown for you, I defy you to listen to his song, I Am Enough, and it not be the best earworm that you will have all day. Justin Michael Williams joins me from his home in Los Angeles. Welcome to the University of Victoria, Justin.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Sheila. What a gift to be here. And yes, coming here from the Tongva land, here the indigenous people of the Los Angeles Basin.
Yeah.
And so just honoring that. And I'm so grateful to be here in community with you and with your community, and to really talk about wellness and mental health and everything that we're digging into today to help people wake up.
We are very happy to have you here. And, as I speak to you, we're living in such a crazy time, the time of the COVID virus. Just recently, the storming of the Capitol in Washington, the capital of your country. There's been such chaos. How are you doing right now? How are you dealing with it?
I'm trying to find somebody to marry in Canada so I can get out.
This chat is now going viral.
So if any takers, hello, no, no, the truth is, it's really fascinating. I was telling one of my friends, we're talking now 48 hours,
Yeah.
around from everything happening. And when this occurred, with the Capitol being stormed, I was in Tahoe with some friends, and I remember feeling like this tornado just took over my energetic space and my mental space. It was just this spiraling, this swirling. And there was thankfully, I have so much compassion for people because even with all of my practices, there's still that crazy spinning happening. And I think one of the big reasons why I tell people and why I teach the work that I teach is the world's going to spin sometimes, whether it's socially, whether it's in your family, whether it's just in your personal life. But if we can't find ourselves in the center, in that space that's immovable, then when the world goes crazy, we go crazy too. And so I've just been anchoring into my practices, anchoring into truth, and showing up with what can I do to bring in the type of world that I want to be living in every moment, no matter what's happening.
Justin, I understand that your book, Stay Woke, was motivated as a response to the question, how do I meditate in a state when there's chaos going on all around me?
Yeah.
How did you come to an answer?
Well, this is the truth is meditation for so long, kind of like the propaganda of meditation, is that it's supposed to be there to help us relax. Like, oh, this is some relaxation technique to help you relax. And then when we're in our lives and we're trying to meditate and we don't feel relaxed, we feel like we're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
And the truth is you're not always going to be relaxed. Look at what's happening in the world. For people who've grown up with any sort of social injustice or discrimination, for the LGBTQIA plus family, and for women and starving artists and creatives, and there's so much that we're dealing with in our world. And so we need a practice that actually fits in with our real lives and helps us not relax. But kind of one of my favorite quotes from my book is that meditation is not about relaxing, it's about helping you become more alive. And so how do we become more alive so we can step into our lives, not disconnect from it and step away from it?
I find that really interesting. And I noticed, the meditation CD, well, CDs, that really dates me. But anyway, when you're listening to
I'm not that young.
Oh, okay. At least you know what they are. But the kind of, panpipe music in the background and stuff, just I would sort of enter into these meditation moments feeling, that I wish it wasn't quite so cheesy,
Yeah.
And then not relax because I didn't like the music. So,
That's why music is such an important part of everything that I'm doing, because,
yeah.
even in music, I'll say something very specific about this. So people often ask me, are you a meditation teacher? Are you an author? Are you a speaker? Are you a musician? What are you? You know what I mean? And first of all, I've tried to get out of this, like, defining myself. I think everybody should get out of defining themselves as a noun, and more go into like a verb, like the actions that you're taking for you as an energy. But the main thing is music is something that for generations upon generations, for all of our ancestors, has been used not just for entertainment, but to help transform suffering and pain into beauty, to help us step forward, to help us feel. And so when I use music in my work, it's so important because it can't just be about the words that we're speaking. If it was just about the words, we wouldn't be in the state that we're in now, because there's enough books and enough words out there on the internet that we should have all the problems solved. So it has to be about something deeper that takes us into our hearts. And that's why I use music in everything that I do. And specifically in my meditations, I like to incorporate music that to me doesn't feel so cheesy. It's like the nature sounds and stuff, it's like, for some people like that, but I think we can go a little bit better.
Can we talk about how you got into music in the first place?
Yeah. So, true story is I had always wanted to do music ever since I was a little kid. Music had been a huge part of my upbringing, but I got bullied and teased and just everything that I grew up with, like it made me feel like I sucked at everything, and I completely stopped myself from it. And I think so many of us have this, like we shut down our voices in some capacity. It doesn't just have to be about music, but we shut down our authenticity because somebody says, what, you're too fat, or you're too old, or you're too ugly, or you're too gay, you're not good enough. I should have done it before I had kids. I've waited too long, whatever. Don't have enough credentials. And so for me, the very transparent story is growing up in the environment that I grew up in, I ended up just becoming what I call like a chronic overachiever. And really that looks good on the outside. And I think a lot of people that are listening to this might relate, like this looks great, but because we're filling everybody else's expectations for ourselves and we're doing a lot and we're busy. But there's a big shadow, because what happens is our self-worth and who we are gets completely intertwined inappropriately with our doing and our validation and our success. And so we don't know who we are outside of what we do, and the truth of who we are outside of what we accomplish. And so the short version of this is I go to UCLA, I get a full ride academic scholarship to go to UCLA. I, graduated the top of my class. Like I was that kind of overachiever, class president, all the things. And I get to LA and I have this moment sitting on my dorm room floor when I was 19. I was struggling with an eating disorder at the time, actually. And I sit down on my floor and I said, how is it that I've done everything anyone's ever expected of me and I'm still miserable? Why am I still miserable? How come I'm not happy? And I think that's what led me into the eating issues. For context, like I'm about 6 feet tall. You can never tell on these Zoom things, but I'm about 6 feet tall. I weigh about 165. I weighed 115 pounds at the end of my freshman year of college. So it was rough. And so, all of that story to give you the context of why I gave up music. Like I gave it up because I was trying to fulfill the expectations of society. I was trying to be successful. I was trying to make money. I was trying to do all those things. And especially getting a full ride scholarship to UCLA, growing up in the hood, like music is not what was on the list to do. It's like, no, you're going to make a bunch of money and get the hell out of here, So fast forward to, it was almost 9 years ago now. My grandmother, who I was super, super close to, got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and the doctors told her she had a couple months to live. And when this happened, it was such a huge shock to our family. She was 67, which I consider young, very healthy, seemingly. And so I flew home to be with her, walked in her house, and she literally asked me a question that changed the trajectory of my whole life. She just said, if you were in my shoes and you knew you were going to die in 2 months, what would you do? And I'm looking at her like, what? Like, what do you even, like I had my suitcase, with me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, get quiet, get still, do that meditation thing you're always talking about. And what she really said was, and don't you open your lips until you're ready to tell me the truth. That's what she really said. And so I closed my eyes and I wanted to cry, but I couldn't cry because when I was a kid, they said only faggots cry. And then all of a sudden I just blurted out before I could even think. I said, I would quit everything and I would record an album. I would do music. I would stop hiding myself. And I would step into the truth of my life, because I was hiding behind the scenes, doing marketing campaigns and making a bunch of money. But I wasn't living in my truth. And she looked at me in that moment and she just said, I know. And I want you to promise me no matter what, just make me this one dying promise that you will do it. That's the only thing I want from you. And I look her in the eyes and I said, I promise. And that's what set me on this road of really weaving the music back into my life, which, when people hear, oh, and then he had a top 20 album, it sounds like, ta-da. No, it was.
And it just went like this, a straight line, right?
No, it was through all the fear and the inner critic and I'm not good enough and the naysayers and my family thinking I was crazy, for changing up my life so dramatically. But now I have the gift of literally living a life that I consider an absolute dream and miracle. And I just try to wake that up in other people now too.
I really love that story. I'm very sorry for your loss, but I sense that your grandmother is still very much with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because spirit doesn't die. Spirit never dies. Yeah.
She gave me her passing was one of the hardest things I had gone through at that point in my life. But it gave me the greatest gift ever, the greatest gift. And she knew what she was doing, because she said, I wanted to talk to you about something for a long time. And now that I know I don't have time, we're talking about it now. And now I have the gift of truly being alive. really being in my life and all the ups and downs of it, you know?
I think about our students at the University of Victoria, students everywhere in this age where they should be gathering, they should be exploring everything and having fun and figuring out who they want to be. I was going to say what they want to do, but after you said how we define what ourselves so much by what we do, who do you want to be? So in this time, you know, there are some positives in this time that we have to be quiet. We're being asked to be quiet. We're being asked to be more still. Do you see a kind of upside to this period that we're in right now?
Yes. I mean, not denying or negating all of the trauma and harm
Mhm,
that's been caused
mhm,
in this time, you know? So just like praying for and blessing and honoring that real reality. And at the same time, my gosh, like there's been so many gifts if we've been able to look for them, you know, if we've been able to pay attention to them. And I think once most of us got into the sense of, okay, I have to let go of the life that I thought I had and then decide how do I want to show up for the life that I have now? And again, that who do I
mhm,
want to be? And the sense of slowing down in a way that happened for a little bit of time. It's even though it seems like now things are speeding up, even though we're on
mhm.
Zoom again, but like you're still on Zoom. And
Yeah.
and the sense of really anchoring into what's important, you know. And I have so
Mhm.
much compassion for students because I mean I can't even
Mhm.
imagine, you know. I think I feel the most compassion for freshmen and seniors, you know,
Mhm.
just like those moments.
Yeah.
And but who do you want to be in this moment? How do you want to show up given the circumstance? And we've seen some incredible creative responses to what's happening right now.
Mm.
And so yeah, there's so many gifts and so many challenges, and none of it matters because you still get to show up as who you want to be in all of it, no matter what's there.
I want to ask you some questions. It's a real honor for me to have some questions from students at UVic. And one of them is about just, you know, your working definition of wellness. What would that
Mm.
be?
Oh my gosh. You know what's so crazy, Sheila? Nobody ever asks me that. It's such an important
Students are
question.
brilliant.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's a genius question because what most people think of wellness and like mental health and these things is always being happy, always being positive, always being bright. And actually, when you look at all the science, so students will learn that I'm half very woo woo and I'm like half very sciencey. Like I geek out on science and like merging
Balance.
together.
Balance is important.
A little
Yeah. Yeah.
balance, you know. I got the crystals and everything, and then I also am like reading neuroscience books. And so but the whole point of what I'm telling you here is all the science shows that what real wellness and mental health really means is that you have the capacity and tolerance, a window of tolerance, to hold the full spectrum and range of your emotional palette. And
Hmm.
so, what people think is if I am well, that must mean that I'm only feeling these positive emotions here mostly. But that's not what it means. It means that you can feel, yes, the joy and the happiness, but you can also feel the pain and the grief and the loss, and it doesn't break you down. And so the idea is you think of if you have this full circle of your emotional spectrum, that well being is you being able to access all of it. And so, what so many of us do, like I know for me, I'll just make a personal story, is like one emotion that I've always had trouble accessing, and it still is the hardest emotion for me to access, is anger.
Hmm.
I don't access anger easily. And for those of us who don't access anger easily, it often immediately trips itself up into fear, overthinking, irritation, annoyance, distancing. I'm just not in the mood. You know, like that
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
is what it turns into. But
Yeah.
healthy anger, for example, I'm not talking aggression. I'm differentiating aggression from
Mhm.
anger. Healthy anger is what incites change. It's what incites social justice movements. It's what incites what you care about because anger, if it's healthy, is not just fighting against something, but it's protecting what you love. And so there's this element of anger that's necessary in our lives. And I'll never forget when I was seeing a therapist, and she said, when's the last time you can remember being really mad? And I was like, I don't get mad. Like, I was like, I'm so spiritual, I don't get mad. This is a long time ago. And she said, you have to recognize that not feeling your anger is just as bad as not feeling your joy. And what all the studies show across the board, which is mind-boggling to me, is that suppressing your negative emotions actually limits the amount of positive emotions that you can feel. So the level of depth that you can go with your sadness or your anger actually increases the level of happiness and joy that you feel. Wild, right? So anyway, all of that is to say, like, real well-being is practicing and giving yourself the capacity to feel the full range of what it means to be alive.
I really find that interesting. And I go back to an occasion at the University of Victoria where we started a round of on-stage convocation ceremonies the morning after the shooting, the Orlando shooting. And everybody had to reach deep to know that people were feeling very, very sad, very moved, righteous anger. But this was a day of celebration also. And what you tell me with this beautiful circle that you describe is that we are capable of holding these things at the same time. We aren't just one or the other. We are the whole spectrum.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, I'm going to ask you another question from one of the students. And it's, how do you define wellness beyond self-care?
This is so beautiful. Okay, so come on, students, with these great questions.
I know.
So there are a few pillars of wellness that go well beyond. So I already talked about the emotional side of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, which is, let's include that in this question, but I won't go into that because we talked about it enough. So that's one pillar. But there's a few pillars that I talk about when we think of wellness and well-being, and how it is that we can take care of ourselves beyond the niceties that we think about when we hear self-care now, because it's become so trendy, of like taking a bath with a bath bomb, like, or whatever, like, that's not what I'm talking about here. Like, you can do those things, but, but there's sleep. Okay. Stress is a big one. Physical activity is a big one. And relationships. Big, big, big elements. If you think of these as like 4 pillars of a table, and if one of these pillars is off balance, then anything you try to set on this table, which is your life, is going to roll off at some point, is going to be off balanced. And so and I know, listen, I was a college student who was up until 4 a.m. Like, I was that kid, and so I understand that it's challenging sometimes, but if you really want to understand how to be well, meaning to feel well, you have to look at these elements. And I want to, for a second, just dig into the relationship piece, because I think that's one that people don't think of when they're thinking of self-care or well-being. Is who you're choosing to surround yourself with is one of the most important measures of your well-being, because you're interacting with these people constantly and all the time. And so what we have to learn how to do is not just do this thing where, like, oh, we have to cut all these people out of our lives, but we have to learn how to set boundaries with ourselves, which is one of the things I'll be talking about in our, in our session during Wellness Week. But how do we set clear boundaries to make sure that there's this quote, I can't remember whose quote it is. I think it's by a guy named Nico Carey. And it says, healthy boundaries are the ability for me to love myself and love you at the same time. Right? Like, how do we do that? Because we all have people in our lives who kind of take us off track in some ways. And so what boundaries do we need to set?
That's great, because there was another question about, what do you do with somebody who, won't accept that you might be struggling with anxiety or depression and just says, just get over it. Come on, look at everything you've got.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Gratitude and these kind of statements, like gratitude, can be used almost as a weapon sometimes. Like, you should be so grateful for what you have. Like, so many people have it much worse than you. Look at how many people are going through this. Like, how could you be anxious, you know? And I'll say a few things. Just, I could go into this for an hour, but for the sake of like a clear point is, don't feel like you need to share your emotional state with everyone. There's this thing right now about like being vulnerable and being open and being real. And while we want to do that, there's a difference between that and just like blurting out everything for no reason. Some things are better kept to yourself. And this is my differentiator. This is how I decide who I'm sharing with and who I'm not. As you can imagine, I have a lot of people around me, you know, in my life. And I have one filter, and it's like, if this person would do anything but pray for me, literally, like if they would have negative thoughts, if they would be dismissive, if they would just kind of be like, I don't really care, if they can't hold it, I don't share it. I don't share those deeper parts, because I need, if I'm vulnerable, if I'm feeling anxious, then I'm only sharing, even if it's one or two people, with the people who can hold that space that I need to really see me and be with me. So to the student that's asking this, if you try to share with somebody and you see that their response isn't one that can hold the space, don't blame them, because they just may not be able to have the capacity for it. But don't share anymore of that, and just draw a boundary around that area of your life. And you could share other things with them, but just not this part.
Great. And I think that shows kindness to yourself, but also kindness to the other person as well, meeting them where they're at too.
Yeah. Because sometimes other people are dealing with their own stuff. And if they come to really be with you, it makes them hold up a mirror to themselves, and they might not be ready to go there, you know? So we just have to have compassion. There's, gosh, I keep forgetting who said this. There was this amazing quote that I had heard that, like, sometimes we have, you know, people in our lives who are quart-sized containers, but we're a whole gallon, you know, and we're mad because they can't hold all of who we are. But the whole of who they are is a quart. And so it's not saying a quart's bad. It's just there's a different energetic container that's been built through your personal work that's able to hold a certain capacity.
That's a great quote. And maybe it was you.
Maybe it was, I think I just changed it a whole bunch, so it could be mine. I don't know.
Oh, sure. That's great. A question about your book titled Stay Woke, a meditation guide for the rest of us. The question is, why did you choose this title?
Oh, this is so good. I love these questions. So I'll start with the meditation guide for the rest of us part. Forever, and I was shocked when I heard this. Like, I had this idea to write a meditation book that really specifically spoke to the very real issues that people are facing, that we're all facing in our lives. And a lot of books kind of spiritually bypass it. It's like, yeah, there's this going on in your life. Yeah, there's this drama. Yeah, there's a social injustice, but let's just send love and light. You know what I mean? Like, let's just turn towards this. And it doesn't work, because if it worked, we wouldn't be in this state that we're in the world. And I'm not saying don't send love and light, but I'm saying there's more. And so when I had this book, A Meditation Guide for the Rest of Us, I would love to read to you a little section that's on the, that's like right in the beginning of the book. So my publisher, they asked me, I was done writing. I was literally finished. And they said, Justin, we've read through this whole book, and I'm not clear on who the rest of us really is. And I said, oh God, I was like so nervous, because I was like, I have to be that specific. I don't want to leave people out, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to make people feel. They said, no, go into your heart. Who are you writing this for? And so we added this section on literally the second page of the book. And it says this: for my Black brothers and sisters, this is for you. For my LGBTQIA plus brothers and sisters, this is for you. For my women who've had enough, this is for you. For my starving artists and workaholic creatives, this is for you. For my conscious entrepreneurs who want to make an impact in the world, this is for you. For those who've ever been discriminated against for their otherness, this is for you. For my social justice warriors, this is for you. For my tree-loving planet savers, this is for you. And for all people of color, and for everyone else who is woke enough to even understand why I'm pointing that out in the first place, this is for you. But most importantly, this book is for us, for the people. And I think we can find ourselves in there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
When I wrote this 2 years ago, I didn't know I was
Oh,
writing it
wow.
for the world that we're living in now, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't actually even think when I say for the rest of us now that I need to define it that clearly anymore, because I think we get it now at this point. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great title, and I know that there's a section. I'll admit, this is my question. There's
Do
a
it, do
section
it.
in the book called "I Am Beyonce." Tell me how that works.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I have the I Am Beyonce meditation, which I have a guided version of it on Insight Timer right now for people. And it's become one of the most popular ones on their app, which is really fun. So I had a student, and this goes to show, like, when you're in meditation classes with diverse groups, you get so many cool responses from people that you never expect. So I'm in the room with this young dude within a group of people. And there's this young Black guy in there named Galen. And I'm going around the room, and I do this beautiful practice, and I have everybody create what's called their unique energy signature. And this is something that we will be doing together in our Wellness Week session. And everybody has a unique energy signature, and it's totally specific to everyone. And I get around, and everyone's saying things like love and peace and hope and gratitude. And then I get to Galen, and he closes his eyes and he goes, I am Beyonce. And I just go, and it was so funny because everybody in the room was kind of looking at me, like waiting for me to like correct him. And I was like, I get it, dude. I get it. Like, yes, you
Oh,
know.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Wow.
anyway, I use that practice in the book to help people recognize that, like, a figure like Beyonce, or you can take any other celebrity or star, or whoever that you like, is just reflecting a part of your personality that you're wanting to wake up inside of you. And so instead of projecting it onto them, how do we reflect it back onto us and then use that as a way to help us, like, empower and embody qualities that we really want to wake up in ourselves. So it's one of the funner practices in the book.
Justin, you've described your song "I Am Enough," which I referred to when I was introducing you, as a meditation. Is that how you set it out as you were creating it?
I have to tell you, I wrote I Am Enough. I was going through it. I was in a moment. I sat down at my piano and I was crying. I have a video that I've never shared publicly because I'm, like, in my underwear, and, like, it was like, it was like, but it was just like a moment that I had, and I just set it up because I knew something was coming through. And I had that moment that I think so many of us have, where here I am, I have a book coming out. I have speaking all over the world. I'm sharing stages with these big people and leaders. And I have these moments that I think so many of us have, where I'm like, my life is terrible. What am I doing? I don't know. I'm wasting away. What's the point? Like, and I think I'm sharing that with people because I want people to recognize that it doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter how much you study, how much you read, how much money you make, how much you accomplish. There's always going to be that child inside of you who just wants to know they're enough, not for what they do, but for who they are, just for being. And so many of us didn't get that message when we were younger. And so now when I wrote that song, I was literally writing it to the first words are, little boy, don't cry. You've been in pain enough. Little girl, don't fight. You're finally safe enough. And so I wrote it as a prayer to that little child inside of each of us who really just needs to hear that they're enough, so that we can keep moving forward in our lives.
Are you close to a guitar right now?
It's right behind me.
You are wonderful.
All right. This is my little travel guitar, which isn't as cool.
Oh, it's cute.
Little sitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I'm singing to you now.
It would be wonderful. It would be a real gift.
Yeah. So when we do this song, I like to tell people, this is not like, look at this not as a performance, but really, truly as a prayer, for that child inside of you who just wants to know they're enough. And so I invite people who are listening just for a moment, if you can, if you're in a space where you can do this, just to close your eyes and place a hand over your heart for just a moment. I am here. I am here now. And see if you can imagine just for a moment a childhood version of yourself at any age. And notice as you imagine this childhood you, what color are you wearing? Where did you land? Are you indoor? Are you outdoor in the vision? Just notice, did this child land in a safe space or in an unknown space or in a traumatic space? And ask yourself, what did that childhood me need most in their life? What did they need? And we'll let this song, I Am Enough, be a prayer and an intention for that child inside of each of us. So I'm going to put the words up on the screen for you all. So it's the chorus is, I am enough, I am golden, baby, yeah. And so I invite you to sing along. Here we go. 1, 2.
Little boy, don't cry. You've been in pain enough. No. Little girl, don't hide. You're finally safe enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise. No. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. Here we go, say I am enough. Hey, I am golden, baby. I am enough. I see you singing, Sheila. I am enough for yourself. I am enough. No, I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. No. Ooh, oh yeah. Hey, I am enough. Ooh, oh yeah. I am enough. Oh, listen up. Little girl, it's alright. You've taken the blame. Enough. No. Little boy, don't hide.
Don't hide.
You've been ashamed.
You've been ashamed.
Enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise. No. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. Here we go, say. Hey, I am golden, baby. I am enough. Sing it like you mean it. I am enough. To yourself, I am enough. Oh, I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. No. Ooh, oh, yeah. Hey, I am enough. Ooh, oh yeah, I am enough. I am enough. Listen up, say I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Switch it up. You are enough. I'm looking at you, Sheila. You are golden, baby. You are enough.
So I want you now to imagine a childhood version of yourself. Bring that up in your mind again. And we're gonna do this one more round. And I want you to imagine singing straight to that childhood. You are enough. Here we go.
You are enough.
Imagine it. Whisper it.
You are golden, baby. You are enough.
Last time.
We're gonna go till we are enough. We are enough. Hey, we are golden, baby. We are enough. All of us together. We are enough. No matter what you're going through, we are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough. No, we are enough. I want you to know that no matter who you love, no matter what color your skin is, no matter what you're going through, that you are enough, that you are worthy of the gift of this life that is your birthright, and that we continue to rise together. We are enough. We are enough. No, we are enough. We are enough. We are enough. You are enough. I am enough. We are enough. We are golden. So just feel that for a moment. You know, after people sing, you want to clap and just feel the energy in you. Feel what that prayer, that blessing does inside of you. And just let that mantra repeat itself inside of you over and over. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Until it heals all those wounded places and we remember who we really are.
How beautiful.
I can hear you, Sheila. I think you're muted.
Okay. I might be muted by the host.
Oh, I can hear you now. You're
Okay,
fine.
good. All I wanted to say was thanks and gratitude. And, you know, that was very powerful. And you're amazing. And I have one last question for you. And it comes from another really great American musician, philosopher, Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it, Justin?
Oh, love has everything to do with it. You know, it's interesting, especially in the times that we're in right now. There's such a specific moment that we have in every opportunity to choose love or to choose fear. And I mean that very practically, like to choose love or to choose fear. And so when everything's happening in the world right now, sometimes people ask me, Justin, how are you so optimistic? You know, how can you be so positive as like a Black gay man in the world with everything going on? And I say, I'm either choosing love or I'm not. You know, that's it. There's really no other way around it. And choosing love doesn't always mean that we show up meek and mild. Choosing love, like I talked about with anger, sometimes because I love something, I have to activate some part of me that feels strong. And so what do you love so much that being silent actually is harder than speaking up? And that's what we want to step into, and that's what love has to do with it.
What an honor. Thank you, Justin, so much. And on behalf of the students whose questions I was able to ask of you, thank you from them as well. You are enough, but it wasn't enough time.
Well, luckily we'll have more time together. So big
thank
blessings.
you.
I'm so grateful, Sheila. You are an incredible leader. What a force in the world of good and love and compassion and equality and diversity and equity and change and all the things that you stand for. It is a blessing to be in this life at the same time as you. I'm so grateful to be here with you. Thank you.
A blessing for me and a blissing, I would say as well. Thank you. I know that you're interested in healing conversation, and this was a lovely conversation about healing and a healing conversation. Justin Michael Williams at his home in Los Angeles. And I thank you for tuning in to this section of Wellness Week. And my biggest wish for you is to be well.